The Book of Serenity, Case 49. Tozan presents memorial offerings to Ungon. Introduction. It can't be depicted, it can't be described. Fuke did a somersault. Yuge revealed half his body. Fundamentally, what can be shown? Main subject. Tozan was conducting a memorial service for Ungon. After presenting offerings, he told his monks the story about leaving Ungon to go on pilgrimage. At that time, Tozan asked him, "In the future, if I'm questioned about your Dharma, what should I say?" Ungon remained silent for a while, and then said, "Just this is it." Now a monk came forward and asked, what did Ungon mean when he paused and then said, "Just this is it"? Tozan replied, "At that time, I nearly misunderstood my late teacher's intention." The monk asked, "Did Ungon himself know it?" Tozan said, "If he didn't, how could he have been able to speak of it? If he did, how could he have been willing to speak of it?" Verse. How could he have been able to speak of it? In the third watch, the rooster crows. Dawn comes to the forest of houses. How could he have been willing to speak of it? The 1,000-year-old crane and the cloud-piercing pine grow old together. The jewel mirror reflects clearly absolute and relative. The jade loom's revolving shuttle weaves both simultaneously. The school's way flourishes, each step regulated and true. Teacher and disciple mutually transform, their influence ever expanding. Good day.
Good day.
Happy Dai Bosatsu Day. You better get your tickets now. July 4th, 2026. 50th anniversary. And here we are at the midpoint, high noon. It's been quite astounding. that moonlight on the snow, those moments of intense brightness of the sun shining, and snowflakes falling, each in its appropriate place. Today, we meet with Tozan Ryokai, who is commemorating his teacher, Ungon Donjo. And tomorrow, we will commemorate the teacher of all Rinzai practitioners everywhere, Hakuin Ekaku Zenji. And on February 19th, we'll commemorate Edo Shimano Roshi, teacher of many of us here, and the founder of this monastery. 15 years ago, at Rohatsu 2010, my last session before taking on the iron yoke of Abbot, it was 1/1/2011 when that happened. Some of you were here. Anyway, that Rohatsu, I was working with the Book of Serenity, from which this case comes. It was compiled by Wanshi Shogaku, who lived from 1091 to 1107. I can't read my own writing. Anyways, he lived in that era. And he brought together 100 very important koans, some of which appear elsewhere as well, and wrote verses. And he had a very warm friendship with Engo Kokugon, of whom we heard just a couple of days ago, who also wrote verses and commentaries for what collection? Very good. So the preface for Book of Serenity for each koan was by Bansho Gyoshin, who lived about 100 years later. Now I remember doing case 41. Rakuho was on his deathbed, and there was such a feeling of loneliness. He had failed to produce a worthy heir. And at that time, Edo Roshi spoke to me about how important it was to train someone to continue our line. And of course, we are all very aware of Shinge Roshi's brilliance at doing this. The Dharma provided, and this continues here in stellar fashion. And in Syracuse, and beyond, lifetime after lifetime. Well, later that Rohatsu of 2010, I came to this case, 49, making offerings to one's departed teacher. The indescribable intimacy of master and disciple. A never-ending, always present relationship. We just heard Daito Kokushi say, devoted to digging into this matter, you will never be apart from me. You are a true student of Dharma, requiting the beneficence you have received. Edo Roshi's karmic bond with Soen Roshi, no matter how difficult the circumstances, was so strong. And for him, it was a verse by Daito Kokushi that spoke to this. Parted from each other for millions of eons, yet not even a second separated. And I feel the same way about Edo Roshi. No matter how difficult the circumstances, in this mind, not even a second separated. Today, we'll see many giants of Tang Dynasty are visiting. Eino Daikan, Echu Kokushi, Baso Doitsu, Hyakujo Eikai, Nansen Fugan, Isan Reiyun, Yaksan Igen. I'm going to bring them all to you. Maybe I should have some water. But of course, primarily Tozan and Ungon. Tozan Ryokai, he was born in 807 and died in 869, which was 3 years after Master Rinzai's departure. As a child, reciting the words of the Heart Sutra with his tutor, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. He said, but I have eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. Why does the sutra say there are none? Did you ever wonder? It's really important, right? We're chanting these things. Huh? I'm using my mouth to chant. So this young fellow was not just speaking from the logical perspective, although that was the way it came out. He intuited something deeper. And the tutor felt that too. He was impressed by the question, and he suggested that he go off and study with a good teacher. So the boy began practicing at a Zen temple and became a novice monk, and then at 21 he was ordained. Then he went to the very famous Nansen Fugan's monastery. And Nansen and his monks were preparing a commemoration for Nansen's late teacher, the great Baso Doitsu Zenji. So Nansen asked his monks, tomorrow we will pay homage to Baso. Do you think he'll come? No one could answer. Then Tozan Ryokai stepped forward and said, if he finds the company suitable, he'll come. He was a newcomer, this brash young kid. Wow, Nansen was quite struck. What about us? What about our suitability, our aspiration, our deeds? Do you ever wonder, are we worthy of our ancestors' struggles? How are we requiting them? And do we feel their presence every day, spurring us on? Well, Nansen said, although this monk is still a gem in the rough, he's worth polishing. Tozan said, Master, don't crush something good into something deficient. Don't try to refine this rough pebble. Don't say, I'm worthy of your guidance. How different that is from the usual, oh, I got praise, yay. Yesterday, we recited the song of Zazen by Master Hakuin. How does it start?
Sentient beings are fundamentally Buddha.
Sentient beings are fundamentally Buddha. You know, this is a true fact. Even if you don't believe it. Especially if you don't believe it. What happens if you get caught up in believing it? Even when it's not realized. You know, realization is not a self-improvement project. It's not about molding, polishing, shaping. And yet, there's always an and yet. Have you met the Buddha you are? For the teacher, it requires upaya, skillful means, seeing what is already there and allowing it to ripen, picking and tapping, as another koan puts it. It takes the time it takes until there is no time. I think everyone, to some degree, wants affirmation. Nice words of encouragement. Oh, you're doing so well with that koan. That only goes skin deep. And it creates dependence. So instead, we have to cut through all those hopes and expectations and assumptions and denying and depriving until, with the readiness of time, there is a ripening which can't be forced. What did Rinzai say about teachers? All we can do is loosen bonds. What are those bonds?
Attachments.
What's the key attachment?
Me.
Yeah, me. All we can do is loosen bonds and cure illnesses. What's the illness? Anyone?
Someone said delusion. That seems very.
Yes, we may say delusion, we may say ignorance and all its various manifestations. I can see you're all familiar with the manifestations. This is wonderful. In Kanban, critical examinations, Rinzai tells of being visited one day by a governor, Counselor O. When they met in front of the monks' hall, the governor asked, "Do the monks in this hall read sutras?" Rinzai replied, "No, they don't read sutras." The governor then asked, "Do they practice Zen?" The master said, "No, they don't practice Zen." Counselor O then asked, "If they don't read sutras and they don't practice Zen, then what are they doing?" The master said, "I just let them become Buddhas and ancestors." This is such a wonderful statement. What about here at DBZ, at this midpoint of one truly timeless day? Do we have any students practicing Zen? The point is, we have no idea about it. No ideas about chanting, about sitting, just chanting, just sitting. It's always new, right? Always fresh. It's no one doing, as Rinzai said. Buji. nothing to do, no undoing. We can't really speak of it. And this is the core of this case 49. We can't brandish it aloft like a banner. Oh, look, I'm a Zen student. We don't have a sandwich board sign to carry around. Here I am at Daibosatsu Zendo doing Rohatsu session. Wow. You know what happens when you make it into a practice? You hear yourself evaluating it. You know, like, the last sitting was really good. But this one, oh my God, when will we hit the damn bell? I don't know what happened. I don't know what's wrong with me. But I don't think I'll ever have a good sitting again. So the nature of judgmental mind, right? It goes on and on and on in all manifestations. So what do? The most important thing is what we don't do. Don't believe. Whatever formulation comes, just say, my favorite word. Really? Really? I don't think so. Shinge Roshi said many, many times, some of you remember, I'm sure, it's worthy to struggle. Have you been struggling? Oh, good. Then he is alive and well. It's worthy to struggle. And sometimes, again, having a notion about struggle can also really keep us in a very stuck place. I remember once when Yamakawa Roshi was here, and I went to Dokusan with him, and I was struggling, and I was just like, Bono Mujin Seigondan. It's the only Japanese that seemed to make sense at that point. And he said, don't hate your delusions. They are, of course, our best teachers. But more than that, don't create an attitude toward anything. Let it come. Let it flow. Let's go back to Tozan. He left Nansen's place and went to Isan's monastery and said, I've heard that Chu Kokushi, the national teacher, Nanyo Eichu, heir of the sixth ancestor, of whom we heard, Eino Daikon, I've heard that he taught that insentient creatures expound the Dharma, but I'm not clear about it. What do we recite in the Bodhisattva's vow? Who can be ungrateful or not respectful, even to insentient things? Isan replied, sermons by insentient creatures are given here for us too, but few can hear them. Tozan said, "Would you please teach me about them?" Isan said nothing, just raised his whisk, straight up. Tozan said, "I don't get it. Would you please explain?" Isan said, "I am completely unable to tell you using the mouth that my parents gave me. Why don't you go to Master Ungon's place?" Wonderful? Bye-bye. Well, let's hear a little bit about Ungon. He was the Dharma brother of Isan, both trained under the great Hyakujo. And Ungon Donjo was born in 782 and died in 841, and entered Hyakujo's monastery at the age of 12. Practicing under him year after year for 20 years. And yet, all that time, no brilliant breakthrough. There may be a few of you who can relate. And you may think, oh, I don't get it. What's wrong with me? That's what's wrong. How about if you let go of that belief that you're wrong? We have a tendency to think our unworthiness is our identity. So we better protect it. Crazy? I'm a bad person and nobody's going to tell me otherwise. We don't use that terminology, bad. We just use that. Well, I haven't yet, and what's wrong, and why can't I, and all of that. But, you know, it's right in the midst of your delusions, these karmic hindrances, that something can happen. And as long as we think it's only after I resolve my difficulties that I'll ever have a chance to break free, that's what keeps us trapped. Right within. When Hyakujo died in 814, Ungon was 32, and still no breakthrough. So he decided to go on pilgrimage and met with many teachers, and then decided to stay with Yaksan Igen, and he became his attendant. Yaksan repeatedly asked him, what did Hyakujo say to his disciples? No matter what Ungon replied, something didn't make it. something was lacking. He kept trying to find out what Yaksan was looking for. What did Yakujo say? I can't remember this or that very clearly, but I think maybe it was nothing. Nothing worked. Trying and failing to find the words. And he was trying to imagine what Yaksan wanted. After all, Yakujo spoke so many times. None of it was acceptable to Yaksan. Finally, after Yaksan asked him again, what did Yakujo say? Ungon answered straightforwardly. He gave up trying to come up with what he thought a good Zen statement was. And he just relayed this. Well, once Yakujo entered the hall to address us, and everybody stood waiting to hear his teisho, and he then brandished his staff, trying to drive us out. And then he yelled, and when we looked back, he said, "What is it?" Yakusan said, "Why didn't you tell me this before?" Thanks to you, today I've finally met with Elder Brother Yakujo. At these words, Ungon was fully awakened. What is it? He had heard Yakujo say that, but he, wasn't ready? They didn't penetrate. And now, telling Yaksan those words and hearing Yakusan say, I've finally met with. He finally met with Yakujo and Yaksan. No gap. And today, who does he meet with? We're coming back. Tozan. Yes. After leaving Isan, he was still seeking some explanation about the sermons of insentient beings. So he asked Ungon the same question. Who can hear the sermons of insentient creatures? Ungon, of course not knowing what Isan had said, replied, insentient creatures can hear them. Tozan said, why can't I hear them? And just as Isan had done, Ungon raised his hosu straight up. Now, there was no manual for teachers that said, when you get asked about insentient creatures, you raise your whisk. But what is an insentient creature? Well, I happen to have this. Tozan, why can't I hear them? Tozan said, I can't. Ungon said, you can't even hear when I expound the Dharma. How do you expect to hear when an insentient being expounds it? What had he expounded? What had he shown Tozan? How had he expounded the Dharma? Right? You can't even hear when I expound the Dharma. No wonder you don't hear it when an insentient being expounds it. Now, Tozan's great doubt had really reached an unfathomable depth. And then Ungon said, "Don't you know the Flower Garland Sutra says, the rivers, the birds, the trees, and the forests all chant the Buddha's name, all chant the Dharma." Upon hearing those words, Tozan at last had a breakthrough. Swirling snowflakes. There are Buddhas dancing. The bright sun and moonlight on the snow. Chanting Ho Dharma, which we will do. And tonight is the full moon. These insentient creatures are supporting us always. We may think, oh, this is such a wonderful meal. I love these noodles. And by the way, this is the middle part of our session, and so we receive these noodles so that we can slurp from the first half of session to the second half. Just like at New Year's Eve, from one year to the next year. Please don't think you should have good manners. It's a wonderful, exciting adventure to be here, isn't it? Yeah. And these insentient creatures are teaching us always. When they slide down our throats, maybe we choke on them, then they're still there. Oh, try again. So Tozan had a breakthrough. And it really was because of his great doubt. And we sometimes forget, this is absolutely necessary. There is no doctrine being preached by anyone, by anything. It is just this. And Tozan's verse upon this breakthrough, wonderful, wonderful. Sermons by insentient creatures. You fail to hear if you listen with your ears. Listen with your eyes, and you hear them. The logical mind is always getting in the way. We think we have to have something in some category, and we know that sentient beings, okay, we can hear them speak, but insentient creatures, they're speaking all the time. To listen with the eyes, you've all done this. When you're listening with your whole being, It's not a matter of some kind of physical comprehension. I'm sure you have had the experience of just being on a walk and stopping. Letting the eyes listen, the ears see, the deep gaze into this. And Tozan's practice became exactly this. Pure lucid awareness, pure attentiveness. He stayed with Ungon for quite some time and became his successor. And when he was preparing to leave, the exchange, which I want to tell you, needs a little. He was preparing to leave, and Ungon asked, "Where are you going?" Tozan said, "I don't know." Ungon said, "Sooner or later, you'll return." Tozan said, "When you have an abode, I'll return." The Diamond Sutra. Omu shoju ni shogo shin. The mind that abides nowhere. What abode? We heard in Shinge Roshi's Teisho about Eno Daikon, the sixth ancestor, while delivering a load of wood and overhearing someone chanting this Diamond Sutra. And at that line, he was illuminated. The mind that abides on nothing whatsoever. And also in the Diamond Sutra, we met the non-returner, remember? Never again to get caught up in the muck and mire of samsara. The mind that abides nowhere. How can there be a return when there is no fixed abode? We are what? Already, always home. In chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "This is my supreme abode, and those who enter here do not return to separate existence." You know what it feels like to be at home on this Rohatsu mid-point. No matter what, pain comes, sleepiness comes, Hunger comes, strange memories come, emotions come, and it's okay. It's really okay. So this farewell meeting between Ungon and Tozan, I find so touching. Ungon then said, "If you leave, it will be difficult to see one another again." Tozan said, "It will be difficult to not see one another." This is true commemoration. You see everywhere, in everything, in everyone, your beloved teacher. It's amazing. Hearing with our eyes, seeing with our ears, we will see each other. This expression, spiritual friends, is a wonderful one and describes these two. That last meeting must have stayed so fresh, so alive in Tozan's awareness. And he never forgot. And that's why he spoke to his monks after commemorating his teacher in this koan. Before leaving, Tozan asked Ungon, "If in the future someone happens to ask me about the Master's Dharma, how should I reply?" After that pause, Ungon said, "Just this is it." Tozan sighed, appreciating Ungon's Dharma, those words. Yet still something. And then Ungon sealed the transmission he had given Tozan, saying, "You are now in charge of this great matter. Guard it well. Be completely thorough." And Tozan went away. And one day, wading across a stream, he saw his reflection, the form, the water, moving, changing. And he had a thorough awakening. It was revealed in full. And he wrote this verse. "Long seeking it through others, I was far from reaching it. Now I go by myself, and I meet it everywhere." It is exactly me. I am not it. Understanding this way, I can be as I am. And Tozan became a great master, and with his disciple Sozan founded the Soto school. Just sitting, just listening, just shkantaza. His great realization of just this is it. I go by myself and I meet it everywhere. It is exactly me, not separate. There is no it to be had by me. No construct of an I that has it. And so in this koan, we see Tozan conducting a memorial service for Ungon, and after presenting offerings, he told his monks the story about leaving to go on pilgrimage and asking Ungon, in the future, if I'm questioned about your Dharma, what should I say? And that long pause, that silence, and then just this is it. Now, a monk came forward and asked, what did Ungon mean when he paused and then said, just this is it? Tozan replied, at that time, I nearly misunderstood my late teacher's intention. What was this near misunderstanding? What do you think?
That he should repeat those words.
Hmm?
That he should repeat those words.
Say it again.
That he should repeat those words.
That he should repeat those words. What was being conveyed? How was Ungon's Dharma being conveyed?
Wordlessly. Wordlessly.
That pause, that silence. And the near misunderstanding was thinking the words that followed that silence were it. Silence. Just this is it. Then the monk asked, did Ungon himself know it, meaning my late teacher's intention? Tozan said, if he didn't, how could he have been able to speak of it? If he did, how could he have been willing to speak of it? This verse. words. How could he have been able to speak of it when the world-honored one realized how could he convey it in words? In the Diamond Sutra, we read this, right? Words cannot express the real nature of the universe in words. And in the preface to this koan, it says, can't be depicted, can't be described. So what can you do? The Buddha just continued sitting. How could he hope to bring what he had realized? And then after some time, he said, well, there may be a few. There may be a few. I must go. In the third watch, the rooster crows. Dawn comes to the forest of houses. The Buddha awakened in the third watch. And everything happened just as it does. Dawn, star. Sitting ceaselessly. And then this star, wonderful. Did he actually say so? On the scroll by Shinge Roshi, it says, this wonderful. How could he have been able to speak of it? And yet, how could he have been willing to speak of it? Out of compassion for all beings, he walked into the village. He taught. Giving it all away. And the poem goes on. The 1,000-year-old crane and the cloud-piercing pine grow old together. Each, of course, you feel this everlasting, right? Never fading away. The jewel mirror reflects clearly absolute and relative. Everything in this poem is an integration of essence and phenomena. Tozan's luminous realization and what he brought through his teachings that became so Tozan. The jade loom's revolving shuttle weaves both simultaneously. Stillness, function. The school's way flourishes, each step regulated and true. This is what we are doing here, right? Each moment of session, This is what we are doing when we too walk down the mountain, maybe drive, and enter back into so-called secular life. But just the way we use words to bifurcate the wholeness of the experience, sentient beings, insentient creatures, the holy, secular, goes against everything we can say is true. The truth is always here, at home, wherever we go. And the last line, teacher and disciple mutually transform, their influence ever expanding. Not just Ungon and Tozan, each one of us, transformation occurs through our relationships, through our interactions, through our silent sitting together, through the energy that we feel from all of these insentient creatures, from these floorboards, Tasmanian oak, to the little drops of water. You don't have to move because this is the end. So let us return to our silent and beautiful interrelationship with all that is, and all that was, and all that will be. Right here, midpoint, Rohatsu.